Video games, one of the world's most popular consumer products, types of entertainment, and emergent forms of art. It's estimated that 9 out of 10 children and approximately 50% of the population of the UK are playing video games regularly. That's 31.6 million players overall in the UK. And yet, a negative stigma remains. For the people who don't play video games, the mainstream media like newspapers, radio, and television promise that they're a dangerous way to spend your time.
And when someone thinks of the video game industry, they usually think of the negative conversations that surround them in the media, things like violence, addiction, guns, and microtransactions. But if so many of us are playing video games and enjoying them, then why is there still such a negative perception being formed in the media?
They're not very friendly towards games, either as a hobby or as an industry. Our jobs are very much viewed as it'll be over in a couple of years, it's not a real skill set, you're wasting your time. And for hobbies, well, it's kind of like TV, kind of like iPad. You can plant your kid in front of them, go away and do something for 10 minutes, come back. So some people find it easy, but then that comes under lazy parenting. For teenagers, you're not going to pass your exams because you're sitting there playing games online too much. But I kind of feel it's a bit all unfounded. We've been watching TV now for 50, 60 years, and it's never stopped any of our parents and grandparents from achieving social lives or husbands or anything like that, so why should games? I think personally it's because the powers that be, your Mike Ashleys and all that, they didn't think of video games. And anything that makes more money than what you make, people tend to go, and that's not real. It's an absolute Trump response. And I think it's because people aren't quick enough to have thought about it themselves. And we've got the video game tax relief fund, Rockstar take ample advantage of that, but it benefits, from your wee indies to right up to your big AAA. So it's just this kind of pretending that it's not there, I think.
Earlier this year, the World Health Organization declared that gaming addiction was now a registered disorder. But this week, GamesIndustry.biz reported on a study by the Oxford Internet Institute that found no evidence that gaming can be a clinical disorder. Instead of reporting on this, however, mainstream media outlets like The Guardian reported on how harmful games can be to children. But just how much truth is there in the argument that video games are bad for our psychology?
I am aware, whilst I'm not completely in the debate, I'm aware that there's been a lot of controversy over this sort of new disorder coming out because a lot of people see it more as a coping mechanism or as a symptom of a difficulty. As human beings, we're individuals, and therefore we have different likes and dislikes. And we should never criticise someone for having different dislikes and likes. I guess as psychologists, what we try and do when looking at healthcare is looking at things which can help enhance someone's life more. So it might be that there's an increase of gaming behaviours when it comes to someone with social anxiety, because it might be a lot harder for them to socialise in person than it is to socialise in the game world. Similarly, there might be someone who uses it as a self-care kind of strategy. They come home from school and they need some time out. That can be a useful thing as well. So I guess my understanding is that gaming could be sort of a secondary thing, where the primary kind of concern is maybe a clinical disorder. My understanding of that study is that it wasn't conducted on a clinical population, so actually we can't.
What does that mean?
So it wasn't tested on people with clinical disorders.
Right.
So I guess whilst we can consider the results of it, we have to remember that it's not actually applicable to people with a clinical disorder.
Okay.
So I guess more research is needed in order to kind of understand it more.
So do you think in that kind of light, video games could even be helpful to people as opposed to harmful?
Yeah, for sure. I think we don't always think about what makes a person feel good, and when someone is suffering from mood difficulties like depression, anxiety, it's really important within that sort of experience that we enhance people's experiences of positive things that make them feel good. And if gaming is something that they do to let off steam, to escape from the world a little bit, then as long as it's done in moderation and it's games that are appropriate to their developmental age, then absolutely it could be a really positive thing for them.
But of course, gaming isn't just a hobby. The games industry contributes massively to local and national economies. So much so that Rockstar here is one of the most profitable studios on the planet. But of course, that's never reported. And when you compare how video games are reported to movies and music,
it's a no contest.
I think it still gets really much downplayed how small an industry it is. Video games are the biggest media industry now in the UK. It's something like, 5 billion in the last year it's taken in. Supersedes, Coronation Street and everything on the TV. I think it's a sign of the times. People don't understand gaming's a real legitimate platform on so many levels, from video production to writing to development to sound engineering to producing and PR, and it's this really intricate Hollywood-esque industry, but because it's games it kind of gets punted to the one side.
Yeah. But not all mainstream outlets seem to hate games quite as much as they let on. Channel 4, one of the biggest broadcasting houses in the UK, even has video game publishers in their employ.
All4 Games is an indie publisher. I was the games commissioner at Channel 4. So we commissioned a bunch of games linked to our TV shows. So if you've played the Made in Chelsea game or the Hollyoaks game, they're not my fault. Of the success of the games linked to TV shows, we basically set up All4 Games as an indie publisher. So we were looking for really cool indie games that were getting made anyway, and then we were advertising them on Channel 4 and helping give indie developers a bit more exposure. There are mechanics in games that are designed to keep people playing for longer and to keep them spending money. So I think as an industry, we've got to take some responsibility for that. We've got to look after our players. After all, they're the ones that are keeping us in business. If we really don't care about them, then why are we doing this? And are we, it seems a very short-term approach. So I think game designers are not as evil as some of the press make out, but they're not as altruistic as some of the publishers will say when they stand up and in front of politicians that are trying to hold them to account. And I think as an industry, if we wait until we're dragged through parliamentary processes or anything to deal with this, then we're on the back foot. I think we should be open and proactive and go, look, we don't think there's huge problems, but there is a problem for a tiny percentage of people. Let's manage that. Let's be adult as an industry, get on top of that. Let's provide support for that, whatever it is, the 0.1% of people that will have problems.
But how long must it go on? The games industry has exploded in the last decade, and with more and more people playing and creating, you have to guess that the stigma won't stay around much longer.
More and more people are growing up with games. You've now got people that are parents that grew up playing games in the 80s and 90s and so forth. So they understand, actually, I did learn some stuff and it was just great fun, and it was a way of bonding with friends and family, and you've now got parents playing with kids. So I think more slowly we are seeing people see both sides of that, and we've got some great serious games. We've got some great games. Something like Minecraft is basically just digital Lego, and still teaches you about how do you make glass? Well, there's sand involved. How do you do this? There is some educational aspects to it, even though it's primarily entertainment. So I think it will slowly change, but I think there will probably always be a stigma because it's playing games.
Public perception and stereotypes don't typically change overnight, but hopefully at some point in the near future, we'll see video games covered by the mainstream media in a bit more of a positive light. Until then, I'll be here.
Hey, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this slightly different style of video. Please do let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. If you liked it, I'd really appreciate a wee click of that like button. Make sure you check out all the links in the description for our monthly podcast Podcoping and our written articles over on Medium. That's it from me. Thanks again so much for watching. Please do subscribe to see more and hit that bell icon if you don't want to miss a beat. Other than that, tune in next time.